Now is my soul troubled, and what shall I say? Father, save me from this hour, but for this cause came I unto this hour. Father, glorify thy name. Then there came a voice from heaven saying, I have both glorified it and will glorify it again. This third recorded prayer of Jesus has only 4 words. Father, glorify thy name. But it's really how he gets to those 4 words that is the substance of what we want to talk about today. You might have to train your mind and make yourself stay with this. God has something to say to us. Don't allow the devil to steal it from you. It is how Jesus comes to this 4-word prayer that is the subject of our conversation and is of most importance for us to hear at this season of our individual and collective lives. When the Greeks come in verse 20, when the Greeks come to the feast where Jesus has come, Jesus recognizes that their arrival, until now, it's been all about the Jews. Until now, it's been all about the Jews. And now the Greeks have come up to the feast to worship. And not only have they come to the feast to worship, but this time they have come and they asked Philip to see Jesus. Their interest is piqued at Jesus' fame, and his drawing power is increasing. When Jesus knows that the Greeks have come to look for him, Jesus recognizes and he verbalizes that there is a major shift happening. Does that make sense to you? There is a shift that is happening in his journey. There is something that has changed dramatically about the way that his ministry has been going. Jesus knows that his hour of purpose has come. Verse 20 and verse 20, around verse 21, when Jesus knows that the Greeks have come to find him, Jesus says, now is my hour come. He knows that his hour of purpose has come. The coming of the Greeks represents an expansion of his reach beyond the Jews to the whole world. He has not only come to save the Jews, but he's come to save the whole world. And when the Greeks come, Jesus says, my hour is come. The hour that Jesus has repeatedly throughout the Gospel of John said, it's not come yet. When he is at the wedding, he tells his mama, my hour is not come yet. And repeatedly through the Gospel of John, he says, my hour has not come. The hour that Jesus has been saying has not come, has now come. The hour he knew one day would come has come for real. Everything. Every moment of every day, every step and every turn, every advance and every delay, every detour, every interruption, every healing, every spoken word, everything comes to this moment. Everything has led to this hour. You see it as everything converges on this hour. What you see is this increase in not only miracles, but the level and the capacity of miracles. You see the level of his ministry rising, the reach expanding, but you also see a growing opposition. Jesus knew that his hour has come. He felt it. He's felt this for weeks. Have you ever felt like something's happening? Maybe you don't know what it is. Maybe you don't have words to put to it, but something has happened. There is a convergence of worlds. There is a increase in God's response. The other day, Sylvia and I were just talking on the way home and remembering all the things that God has been doing just since January. And I said, I feel like God is just sitting there on the edge of his throne saying, ask me for something else. Just ask me. Just ask me for something else. Watch this. Watch this. Watch this. Just ask me. It is a season where the miraculous is converging. It is a season where the impossible, it just happens. It is a season where all of these things comes together, and Jesus recognizes that his hour has come. He knew it. He knew it. He felt it. He felt it when he got the word that Lazarus was sick. He says to his disciples, it's a good thing I'm not there because you're getting ready to see something. He felt it. He felt it when he stood at the tomb of Lazarus and wept, perhaps getting a glimpse of his own hour. He felt it when a part of the crowd at Lazarus' resurrection, part of the crowd believed him, and another part of the crowd went to report him to the Pharisees and the Sadducees. He felt it. He was grieved. He felt it when Mary, Lazarus' sister, John chapter 12, washes his feet with her hair and her tears and costly ointment. He felt it then. And Judas, when Judas complained. Judas and Mary, by the way, are a picture of the struggle between the spirit and the flesh, which we know all too well, right? Mary, the spirit pours out this costly oil in love upon Jesus without restraint. But Judas wants it for himself. Judas disguises his selfishness as concern for the poor, when really it's all about him. Jesus felt the march of his purpose when the crowd shouted, Hosanna, because Jesus knew that the pathway to the throne was not over palm branches, but through pain. Jesus knew that his hour and his purpose had now come. And the text says that he is troubled. His soul is in turmoil because the hour has come. This third recorded prayer of Jesus shows us that Jesus is not walking through life like a robot without feeling, nor is he overcome by his feelings. Jesus is troubled. He is troubled in his soul. He is troubled. He says, now is my soul troubled, and I'm at a loss for words. What am I going to say in this moment? How am I going to respond to this hour that has come upon me? His soul is troubled. His soul is troubled because of the price of his purpose. Jesus knew, he knew what these easy believism preachers all over the internet and the TV withhold from us. That purpose and destiny has a cost. It has a price. In fact, paying the cost is the destiny. Jesus' words reveal to us that the pressure of the hour of purpose, when your purpose comes upon you, when your purpose is coming to a head, when as an individual or as a people, our purpose is come to a head, that the struggle is very real. Can I tell you, this is not staged? Jesus ain't making this up. He's in turmoil, real turmoil, a real struggle. He is not torn. Listen, he is not torn between whether he wants to fulfill his purpose or not. He is in turmoil over the high price of that purpose. You've been connected with us on Wednesday night. You might recognize that Jesus has fought this fight in the wilderness before. Remember that we said on Wednesday night that whatever you don't wrestle with and shape in the wilderness will show up misshaped as you wrestle with it in the world. Whatever you don't wrestle with in private will show up in public, and always at the most inopportune time. Because the devil, the enemy will always seek to exploit in public, and at our moment of purpose, those things that we have refused to wrestle with in private. And so when our moment of destiny arrives, when our moment of purpose arrives, he will always reach back and exploit those fears. He will always reach back and exploit those hurts. He will always reach back and exploit those things that we have refused to wrestle with in our own wilderness. The enemy comes to exploit. Jesus here is troubled. He is in turmoil over the price of purpose. Say, purpose has a price. That's price. Destiny has a price. It's far more than tacking a sign on your mirror or wearing a t-shirt. It has a price. Many men and women have come to the hour of their purpose, an hour that God would use them and expose who they are for his glory, and have shrunk back. Many have come to their hour of promise and feared to go in. Many have stood at the edge of the promised land and turned around and walked back into the desert. Many have come to the intersection of calling and purpose and have turned back, not for fear of calling, but for fear of the cost. See, men rarely abandon the glory of the will of God. They shrink back from the glory of the ways of God. God's ways have always been to bring life out of dying. His methods have always been that life is born of death. And it's from the death and the manner of the death that we shrink back. Passion Translation puts John chapter 12 this way, Jesus' words in verses 24 through 25. It says, a single grain of wheat, listen to this, a single grain of wheat will never be more than a single grain of wheat unless it drops into the ground and dies. Because then it sprouts and produces a great harvest of wheat, all because one grain died. The person who loves his life and pampers himself will miss true life. But the one who detaches his life from this world and abandons himself to me will find true life and enjoy it forever. This will probably never show up on TV. This gospel ain't made for TV. We stand at the hour of purpose. Don't you feel it? Don't you feel it? We all feel it in different ways. Some of us feel it in the form of excitement. that God is doing something great, and we don't have words to put with it. We feel it in the form of excitement. Some of us feel it in the form of fear. That everything, every moment, every day, every step, every turn, every advance, every detour, and every delay has led to this singular hour of purpose. And you know what you got to do. You know the cost. For some of us, this hour is a calling or a decision to follow Christ, maybe for the first time. For some of us, it's about returning to Christ that we abandoned. For some, this hour demands a dying to ourselves in a particular area of our lives that we've not wrestled with. For some of us, it means a giving up of the things that keep holding us back from our purpose. For some of us, it means letting go of the grasping for control. To some, it means to let go of our grasping for recognition and human validation. For some, it means letting go of the comfort of a disposition towards laziness that prevents us over and over again from rising to the occasions that God gives. It is not that God doesn't give opportunity. It is not that God doesn't open doors. It's not that God doesn't make ways. It is often that we are too lazy to step through the door. Choosing rather to be distracted with endless and vain pursuits. Jesus says, so what am I going to say? He says, it is upon us. The hour is upon me. My hour has come. And what do I say? Is what Jesus says. What do I say? He says, what do I say? Am I going to ask the Father to save me from this hour? This is what he says. And what do I say? Father, save me from this hour? This hour, the convergence of destiny, the convergence of the miraculous, the convergence of open doors. Paul says it this way, that there are many open doors before us, but there are also many adversaries. But this moment when we decide what we are going to say, it really comes down to, how do I respond to what God is doing? How do I respond to the hour that is in front of me? How do I respond to God's invitation? How do I respond to God's opportunities? He says, do I say, Father, save me from this hour? This is the moment. This is the moment in this text. This is the moment for you and I when it is determined what we are really made of. How are you going to respond to this? Will you ask to be rescued from the difficulty and challenge of it? Or will you find courage to face this hour? Will you ask for calling without cost? Will you ask for a purpose without payment? Or will you shrink back in fear of the pain of purpose? Luke chapter 9, verse 62, Jesus says this. Y'all still listening to me? Jesus says, nobody puts their hand to the plow. No one who puts his hand to the plow and looks back, he says, is fit for service in the kingdom of God. Nobody who puts his hand to the plow and looks back is fit for service in the kingdom of God. Listen, people do not put their hands to the plow and turn back because they don't want to harvest. They turn back because plowing is hard work. Are you afraid of the hard work of purpose? Are you afraid of the hard work of purpose? Because the hard work of purpose is really dying to self. This is Jesus' hour. It is an hour of death. The hard work of purpose is not coming up with fresh ideas. The hard work of purpose is not coming up with strategies and agenda. The hard work of purpose is dying to self. The hard work of purpose is saying, God, you brought me to this hour. My soul is in turmoil at the price that has to be paid to have what you want to give me. What am I going to say? How am I going to respond? People don't turn away from Jesus because they don't want to go to heaven. They turn away from Jesus because they don't want to pay the price to follow him. He says, what am I going to pray? Save me from this hour? Then he says, no. You can see the turmoil. You can feel the turmoil in his soul, everything in his soul, fearing the turmoil, looking at the cross ahead of him, looking at the price that has to be paid, looking at the price. I remember when I was 15 years old and I wanted to be saved. I wanted to give my life to Jesus Christ and I wanted to follow him. But all I kept thinking about was all the stuff I hadn't got a chance to do yet. And you don't even know what that is if you ain't never been 15. But all I could think about was the price that was ahead of me if I followed Jesus. Jesus said, I've come to my hour, and what am I going to say? Deliver me from this hour. He says, no, I can't pray that. No, I can't choose the road of ease. No, can't choose my flesh. No. He says, because for this cause came to this hour. All of my life has been about this hour. All of my life, this moment of decision, this moment of deciding to do the will of God. Whole life, everything that I have been through, every step of every day, every moment, and every hour has been about the now. It's been about this hour. How do I walk away from the moment of destiny I was made for? Jesus says, no, I won't pray to be rescued. I will step into purpose. Because this is the why of my life. Martin Luther King says, I believe, if a man has a way, a why, if a man has a why for living, he can stand almost any what. Listen to what Jesus is saying here. This is the why of my life. This is the why of my life. This is the reason of my life, to pour it out. This is the cause of my life, to give it away. The why of my life is to sacrifice my one life, my single grain of wheat, for a harvest of many. This is what he says. That my singular life, as great as the price seems to be, is a small price to pay for the return that is promised. Giving his life, listen, the giving of his life and the giving of your life is not a means to purpose. It is the purpose. It is purpose. Giving ourselves away, sacrificing our lives, dying to self is not a means to get what we want. It is the purpose. Matthew chapter 16, when Peter rebukes Jesus for saying that he's going to die. Remember, Jesus responds to Peter, "Get behind me, Satan." He says, "You're an offense to me. Your appetite is not for the things of God, but for the things of men." Do you hear what he's saying? He's saying that resistance to dying to self, refusing to die to self, is of the flesh and of the world and not of God. In fact, he says to Peter, your appetite is provoked by the devil. Your appetite for self is provoked by the devil. Your appetite to have your way is provoked by the devil. Your appetite to insist on control and your own way when the hour of purpose has arrived, he said, it's of the devil. It is to derail the purposes of God. Then Jesus says to them, if any man would come after me, he says, let him deny himself. Let him deny himself, not promote himself. Let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whosoever will save his life will lose it. Whosoever will lose his life for my sake, he says, shall find it. For what does it profit a man if he gain the whole world and lose his soul? What will a man give in exchange for his soul? We do not experience the purpose of God in our individual lives, if we do not experience the call of God that is on our life, because we refuse to pay the price, because we shrink back from the pain of making the hard choices about dying to self, what a shame and what a waste of life. Are you willing to give yourself for the sake of some larger purpose? Will you choose purpose? Will you embrace the why that you've come to this hour? I realize this is not a shouting message. But it is a pivotal moment. It is the critical decision of this hour. Will I pay the price? Will I pay the price to see the purpose of God in my life? Many will not. Jesus says, what am I going to pray this? What am I going to do? I can't shrink back. I can't ask God to deliver me from the hour, because I can't have the purpose without the pain. I can't have the crown without the cross. I can't have one or the other. They come together. They come joined together. He says, I won't ask to be spared or rescued from this. He says, but I will step into purpose, because for this purpose, for this cause, I've come to this hour. And finally, we get to his actual prayer. In verse 28, he says, Father, glorify thy name. If you will summon courage, if you will summon the courage to choose purpose over fear, if you would choose purpose over fear, purpose over fear of the cost that I might have to pay, if you would choose purpose, you must pray like Jesus prayed. Father, glorify your name. This is a powerful prayer. It is to say, away with my fear of pain, away with everything else, away with everything that might get in the way, away with my personal preferences and desires, away with all of it. Father, glorify your name. Father, glorify your name. Don't rescue me. Don't deliver me from the struggle. Don't give me an easy out. Don't give me my way. Just glorify your name. I don't like what I got to go through. I don't like the cross that is in front of me. I don't like the struggle to die to self. I don't like giving up, trying to be right. I don't like doing that. But Father, glorify your name. Glorify your name. If it has to come down to whether I get my way, glorify your name. If it has to come down to whether my dreams and hopes or whatever else that I want are fulfilled or not, I want your name to be glorified. I want to leave this earth knowing that the name of God has been glorified in my life, and that in the hour of purpose and decision, I chose purpose. I heard somebody say this morning, stop giving away your purpose for pettiness. Father, make your name great through my life in this hour. Will you give your life for the glory of God? Will you give your life for the glory of God? So you know what our flesh says? Our flesh says, just like Judas, yeah, if I can have both. If I can have both what I want and what he wants, yeah. If I can have my dreams and hopes that I want, yeah. But what if you don't? What if you can't have what you want? What if you can't have what your flesh wants? Will you give your life for the glory of God? Or will you hold on to self-protection? Will you pray for the glory of God? Or will you pray for comfort and relief from the pain of dying to self? Dying to my attitudes, dying. Will you pray not to be relieved from it? D.L. Moody is credited with saying that the world is yet to see what God would do with a man fully consecrated to him. Then he says, by God's help, I aim to be that man. What about you? What about you? Can you give your life for the glory of God, for the purposes of God, without negotiating with him of how much of your way you get to have? Passion Bible puts it this way. Even though I'm torn within and my soul is in turmoil, I will not ask the Father to rescue me from this hour of trial, for I've come to fulfill my purpose, to offer myself to God. So, Father, bring glory to your name. Isaiah Watts says, I'm a soldier of the cross, a follower of the Lamb. And shall I fear to own his cause or blush to speak his name? Must I be carried to the skies on flowery beds of ease, while others fought to win the prize and sailed through bloody seas? Are there no foes for me to face? Must I not stem the flood? Is this vile world a friend of grace to help me on to God? Sure, I must fight if I would reign. Increase my courage, Lord. I'll bear the toil, endure the pain, supported by your word. The end of verse 28, Jesus finished praying. Can y'all take a little more? I'm almost finished. Jesus finished praying. Father, glorify your name. This is one of the only prayers where Jesus prays to the Father and we hear the Father's answer. Suddenly there's this booming voice is heard from the sky. And the Father says, I have glorified my name and will glorify it through you again. Here for us is the singular purpose and priority of Jesus' life and your life and my life. If we miss this, then none of it matters. If we miss this, it doesn't matter how many cars that we had. It doesn't matter how many houses we own. It doesn't matter the name brand on our clothes. It doesn't matter how much money we have in the bank. If we miss this, it doesn't matter how gifted we are. It doesn't matter how talented and intellectual we are. If we miss this, we have missed the meaning of life. Here is the singular purpose and priority of every believer's life. It is not for our satisfaction nor for our comfort. It is not to fulfill our hopes and dreams of greatness. It is not even for the resolution of all of our inner questions and conflicts and turmoils. It is not to chase some lesser why for living. Rather, the singular purpose, hear me, no matter what school we go to, no matter what job we hold, the singular purpose is to give ourselves in the hour of purpose for the glory of God. It is to know, has God been glorified through my life? Has God been glorified through my life, or have I skated through life? It is the wonderful, listen to me, it is the wonderful grace of God. It is a wonderful gift of God. No matter how hard it seems, what a gift from God that he would say in this hour, in this day and time, that I choose you. I choose you for my purpose. I choose to use you. I choose to magnify and glorify my name through you. What a marvelous opportunity that you and I who fail, how many times have we failed? How many times have we messed up? How many times have we chosen our own way? And yet again, he comes and gives us this hour. He says, listen, this is the hour. I want glory. I want to get glory through you. I want to do through you something that's never been done before. I want to take a singular grain of wheat, throw it into the ground and let it die so that it can give birth to a harvest of wheat. This is our singular purpose. This is the reason for this hour. Are you hearing me? Are you hearing me this morning? This is the singular purpose for what God is doing and what God wants to do. Can we give ourselves to the purpose of God? Or are we too invested in self and the world and pleasure? Are we too invested in building our own kingdoms and building up our own selves to give our lives for the glory of God? Have we built this house of cards that one single death of ourselves means that the whole thing falls apart? If so, let it fall. Because what does it matter if a man gains the whole world and leaves this earth, never having known or experienced what it means for God to get glory through their lives? What then is the point? What is the point? What is the point? How dare we stand in heaven, stand before God, empty-handed, stand before God without one soul won? What has been the point of our lives if God is not glorified? What has been the point? If people remember our name, but don't know Jesus' name because they knew ours, what has been the point? What's the point of it? Father, our hour's coming. What are we going to say? Will we shrink back? Will we turn back from following you? Not because you're not providing, not because you're not working miracles, but because we don't want to die to us. Give us courage in this hour. Forgive our selfishness. Forgive our shrinking back. Give us our hour. Come on, lift your hands and say, Father, give me my hour of purpose. Give me my hour of purpose to glorify you. Give me my hour. Listen, it doesn't matter what your age is, doesn't matter how young or how old. That God give me my purpose. I want to glorify you. Father, glorify your name through me. Glorify your name through me in this hour. Never mind what other folk think. Never mind what this world says. We want to glorify you. And so, God, we want to pay the price. We want to give ourselves to you so that you might get glory through us. Would you stand with me? Lift your hands in the presence of the Lord. Sylvia's going to lead us in this course that she's playing. Give myself away. Come on, just lift your hands. I don't know. You're on Zoom or wherever you're listening to us. I don't know what the price of purpose is, what that means for you. I don't know what that means for you. What I can tell you is that if our hour comes, and it is now, and we turn away from the hour of our purpose to satisfy our flesh, may God have mercy on our souls.